All right, everyone. Good afternoon, and welcome to Ursinus College's Admitted Student Experience. We are so happy to have you for the first of 5 panels, and today we are focused on academics primarily. So I'm Sam Carter, Associate Director of Admission, and we are thrilled to welcome all of you. I see students from Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Maryland, Texas, Missouri, Connecticut, Florida, California, North Carolina. We've got students coming in from all across the country, which is extremely exciting. So we hope that you've been exploring our admitted student experience at your own pace. To kick things off, I am going to have our panelists introduce themselves. So Erin, if you want to start.
Hi everyone, my name's Erin. I'm currently a senior at Ursinus. I'm studying biology and I have minors in politics and applied ethics. On campus, I played field hockey for 4 years. I also work in admissions, so I'm a senior fellow and I'm a head tour guide. I also am president of Beta Beta Beta, which is our biological honor society on campus. And I chose Ursinus because of the liberal arts education. So I came into college not really knowing what I wanted to do, but I was confident that Ursinus had a great education program, and whatever I chose, I would be able to really mix and match my interests. And that's true. So, yeah.
Perfect, Erin. Thank you. And then Kyla, you are up next.
Hi, everybody. My name is Kyla. I'm a senior. I'm a psych major, advanced minor with AAAS, Africana Studies minor. I'm the secretary of our Black Student Union, SUN. I'm in UCDC, which is our professional dance company, also in EV, Escape Velocity, company. And I basically chose Ursinus because I was able to receive an education, but also explore my passion.
All right, thank you, Kyla. Rebecca, I have you up.
Hi everyone, welcome. It's really nice to see so many names out there. I'll pretend like I can see all your excited faces. My name is Dr. Rebecca Lysak. I am a professor of biology. I teach a bunch of different classes at Ursinus, including CIE, which is our first year course. And I also teach genetics and a capstone class called molecular genetics and developmental biology. Those are electives for the biology major. I do research with students on campus. I work in the field of developmental biology and genetics. So I study a small worm called C. elegans, and we study mutants to understand how normal development occurs. And I chose to work at Ursinus because I really wanted to be able to connect with my students, both in the research lab and in the classroom. And at Ursinus, that is a huge part of the community where I get to know really closely all my students. I keep in contact with so many of my former students, and it's great to see what they're doing years out from Ursinus. And it's really like the reason why I love working here.
Terrific. Thank you, Rebecca. Mason, I have you up next.
Hi, everybody. My name is Mason Groff. I'm a junior. I'm a dual major with economics and mathematics. I'm on the tennis team. I'm secretary of our student athlete advisory committee. I'm a tour guide. I run a math club. I'm part of the economic ambassadors program. I'm a member of our Best Buddies chapter at Ursinus, and I'm also a part of Greek Life. So I do a good amount of stuff on campus, and I really love the opportunities that Ursinus provides me with for different outlets of activities. Let's see, I chose Ursinus for many reasons, but one of the main reasons was I wanted a great balance between academics and athletics. So being able to play tennis and also pursue a rigorous academic curriculum is really awesome. And to do 2 majors is pretty unique. So that was one of the main reasons I chose Ursinus, and I've been happy ever since. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Great, Mason. Thank you. And then Brandon, you're up next.
So, hi everyone. My name is Brandon. I am a freshman at Ursinus. I am doing a double major in physics and math, and then a double minor in management studies and politics as well. On campus, I am part of the Able Scholars program. I also do art and mural sports such as like volleyball and soccer. I work as a tour guide in admissions. I work as an athletic photographer in our athletic communications office. And then I also work as a writing fellow in our writing center. I'm also part of GSA as well. I chose Ursinus pretty much because I grew up in Collegeville, so it always felt like home to me. And then when I finally was able to actually look into Ursinus, look at the programs, look at student life, it just checked off every box on my list. It felt like a home, and it felt like a place that I could really push myself to succeed.
All right, perfect. Thanks so much, Brandon. So we have a few of our most frequently asked questions that we'll be asking our panelists. But go ahead if you have any questions, if there's anything specific that you as a prospective student would like to hear answered, go ahead and put those in the chat in the bottom left-hand corner, and we will answer those as they come through as well. So Brandon, we are going to kick things off with you, and oftentimes we hear from students, maybe I don't know what I want to major in, or maybe I'm thinking of a few different areas. So can you talk about that process for you as a first-year student?
Yeah, totally. So when I first applied to Ursinus, I actually didn't know what I wanted to major in. I had a general idea that I wanted to do something with engineering, but I wasn't exactly sure what specifically. So coming into Ursinus, it was really refreshing because a lot of the other schools I was looking at, they sort of pressured you to declare your freshman year and then immediately right off the bat be on a certain path. With Ursinus, they don't let you declare until end of your freshman year into your sophomore year. They do that just so that you can really expand your horizons, take a different class, get a little taste of everything, really help you make a proper educated decision before you declare.
Excellent. Thank you, Brandon. And then Rebecca, can you talk a little bit about how you as a faculty member might interact with students and walk them through that advising process, particularly as it pertains to their first year common intellectual experience?
Sure. So all incoming students will have a first year advisor, and we meet with our first year advising cohort of 10 students once a week. And so it's a nice chance to develop camaraderie. But we also get to work individually with those students to help them choose their courses so that they can figure out what they're passionate about and maybe discover something that they didn't even know they were passionate about. So a typical student's going to take 4 classes each semester. And one of those classes is the Common Intellectual Experience that all first year students take. It has a common syllabus, and it's a seminar style course that is just 16 students and the professor. And everyone in the first year class is reading the same texts or watching the same film or the same performance at the same time on the syllabus and discussing them in this small seminar style course. And it covers a whole array of different topics, and you're able to discuss some of our core questions, like what should matter to me and how should we live together. And it kind of gives you a chance to explore some of the thoughts behind your ideas, to challenge your ideas and those of others, to learn from other people's different experiences from yours. And it's also a chance to discover things that maybe you didn't know you were interested in because of the diverse reading list. So when you're choosing classes in your first year, that's going to be one of your classes. So it's already giving you a chance to explore. At least 1 or 2 of your classes, your advisor would help you choose in a topic you think you might want to major in or something that you really enjoyed in high school. And your advisor will also work with you just to ask you questions about your hobbies, things you like to do in your spare time. Where do you see yourself in 5 years, 10 years? What kind of careers are you considering to help you choose those additional classes? So you'll really be set on a path that even if you don't know exactly what you want to do, you're going to be able to take coursework that's going to help you figure that out right away.
Excellent. Thanks, Rebecca. Aaron, can you walk us through how you went about deciding your major and what that process was like?
Sure. So my freshman year, like I said, I came in undecided, and kind of like Brandon, I knew that I wanted to go into science, but I wasn't really sure like how to go about that. So my freshman year, I took CIE, I took a biology class, I took an English class, and I took an ethics class. So I kind of took a lot of different classes to see what my interests were. And at that time, my first year advisor really helped me figure out what my interests were. And I ended up loving biology, but still loving ethics. And I also took some more politics classes throughout my Ursinus career, which kind of led me to declaring those two majors. So I think, like, if any students are like unsure of what they want to do, I would suggest taking classes that you're really interested in, at least at first, because that'll really give you a good guide into what you actually want to study. And therefore, it will really open up your opportunities for different classes you can take and just things kind of like Dr. Lizak said that maybe you never even knew you liked. So that's kind of what worked for me and how I navigated that path.
Thanks, Aaron. And then we do have a number of students who actually choose to double major on campus as well. So Mason, can you talk to us about your own path?
Yes. So when I came in, I knew I wanted to major in mathematics, and then I wanted to have a double, but I didn't know which one that was. So like Aaron and Brandon, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do, so I tried to do a bunch of different classes. I was between the pre-engineering program and our finance and economics side. So I took multiple different courses in both of those majors. And after my first year, I realized that both departments were amazing, but economics was the way I wanted to go. And that happened through many different talks with my advisors and other students about what they wanted to do with their futures and where I saw myself after school. So I knew math was just something I truly loved, and it was a great supplement to either major. So I would say if you're looking to do a double major, I think finding something that might go along with the other one is pretty cool. But even if not, even if they're completely different, that is a great option to do as well, because you're making yourself more well-rounded and just opening yourself up for different opportunities in the future. You don't want to be stuck on one path. I think that's what Ursinus is so great about, is there's so many different options for you to choose, that you're not just locked in that one decision.
Sure. Yeah, thanks, Mason. And then when we look at maybe disciplines that immediately might not appear to go hand in hand, we do have students who are majoring in sort of disparate disciplines. So Kyla, do you want to talk a little bit about what that has been like for you?
Yeah, so I came actually as a biology major, and I changed it to psychology just because it fit my scientific interest, basically. But I was also interested in dance, and what was interesting about Ursinus is you can basically, I say, create your own degree in a way. You're basically building your own challenge. And it gave me the option to be able to look into psychotherapy through dance, and being able to integrate those two disciplines. Just it gives you a unique factor, when jobs are looking at you and things of that nature. So being able to again integrate those two disciplines, it makes you stand out, and it gives you a different perspective on science and art in that case.
Sure. Yeah, I think that makes a ton of sense. Thank you all. So we have a few live questions coming through, and they can sort of go hand in hand. So Rebecca, I would actually direct the first question to you. Levi is wondering, how are the classes at Ursinus? What's that classroom setting like? And then Liv is wondering, how has that either changed or not changed with some of the distance learning that we have going on right now?
Okay, sure, I can address that. So the nice thing about Ursinus, and one thing I love, is that our classroom settings are very interactive. You don't have a situation where students are passive and only the faculty is talking. All the classes we teach are very interactive, so students are working in groups. Students are problem solving on the spot, where a professor will put something up and then circulate around the room to help them. I do that a lot in genetics. It's a lot easier to understand when you're trying to work through a problem yourself rather than just listening and watching someone else do it. We also have a lot of discussion-based classes. So like CIE would be the first one that everyone's going to take, where it's not the professor talking most of the time. It's a dialogue between everyone in the room. So transitioning that to a virtual environment was obviously not easy. It's definitely not the same, but the close relationships that we have formed made it much easier than I think it would have been otherwise. So we have faculty who are still running discussion classes in like a Zoom or GoToMeeting format where people can participate as close to how we would do in a regular classroom. We have separate discussion groups set up for part of my class. So I might have slides that I'm talking over and answering questions on, and then put my students into groups from the virtual room to discuss some questions that I'll put on the board on a slide, and then I can pop into each of those separate virtual rooms to answer questions for them, and then kind of come back as a group. Then I can call on different students to present some of the findings that they talked about in their group. So we're trying to do the best we can in the virtual format to keep that interactive learning, which is so important to inner science education.
Absolutely, that's well said. Thank you, Rebecca. Before I move on, we're hearing from a few of you that you're having audio issues. We definitely hear you. We're working to get that fixed on the back end. But in the chat, it was just posted, if you click on the closed captioning, the CC button in the top right-hand corner, that will allow you to have all of our audio come into the chat field as well. So a temporary fix as we work to get a more permanent fix on the back end. But Erin, I'd love to throw the same question to you. What is your experience in the classroom like on campus? And then what has your experience been like with some of this distance learning?
Yeah, so on campus, our classes are pretty small. So the average class size ranges between like 15 and 20 students. And kind of like what Dr. Lizak was saying, they're very interactive, very discussion based, but that really helps you create a connection with your professors and then also with your classmates. So there's a really strong sense of community at Ursinus, not only like with your friends, but also with like, your classmates and also your professors. And I think that connection has definitely carried over onto like our virtual learning experience. So I think definitely like virtually learning has helped having these close connections with my professors. It's definitely different, but your professors are really there for you. They truly care about you, like in and outside the classroom, and that goes for both when we were on campus and now that we're off campus. So knowing that I can really trust my professors and talking to them about any issues I'm having with the class or also outside the class. Those close connections and community is really what makes Ursinus unique and makes it really special, and really recognizing that now more than ever since we're all not on campus together.
Awesome. Thanks, Erin. Brandon, as a first-year student, I'd love to hear from your perspective, transitioning from high school into college. What has the level of support been like for you in the classroom?
Oh, the support from high school to college as a freshman has been tremendous. I was honestly a little taken aback just how supportive my professors and the other faculty really were. It definitely did tie into what Ursinus tried to do, in which they try to make it feel like a home, like a family. These professors actually do care about you. They get to know you, get to know what you're interested in, and try to make any issues, they help you try to resolve any issues you have. They definitely try to make that transition the smoothest way they can.
Awesome. Thanks, Brandon. Rebecca, would you like to expand on that just from your own experience or from the experience of some of your colleagues?
Sure. So there are many ways that students are supported at Ursinus. So the first one is going to be your first year advisor, who you're going to meet with before you even come to campus. Then you're going to have your at least four different professors for your 4 classes. And I always recommend to my first year advisees to go visit the office hours of each of your faculty members in the first week, just to introduce yourself so that they get to know your name faster, just to tell them about your interests, and just to realize like, oh, this isn't a scary thing to go sit in a professor's office. It actually is enjoyable. Like they want to have a conversation, like we want to have a conversation with you. In addition to those, built-in supports, like you're going to be seeing your professor and your advisor every week, we have a tutoring center where students can be tutored by a peer for free. We also have more structured rooms like a math help room, for instance. We have a genetics help room. We have recitation sections for some of the intro biology classes where you have another place to ask a student questions. So a student who's taken that class before maybe has a different approach to how they studied, how they approached everything to kind of direct you. Also, your advisor and your professors are aware of other resources on campus. So resources in wellness, resources in the Institute for Student Success, where you might need, accommodations. Maybe you had accommodations in high school and you need that moving forward. So they know where to direct you if they can't answer your question themselves.
Definitely, and I think that's a huge point of emphasis that just once you're on campus, you're not alone. There's a bunch of avenues for students who are looking for a little bit of additional help with that transition to reach out and receive that help. So Kyla, can you talk a little bit more about kind of those tutoring services and other things that we might have available on our campus?
Yeah, so I know for me, during my freshman year, taking like 100, it was a bit difficult for me, and I was able to get individual tutor, and usually that's just like a one-on-one with another student who's already taken the course. And you can, if you can request a tutor for a specific course, whether it be 100 level or 200 level. They have group help rooms, which is really cool if you're not comfortable with being just one-on-one, rather hear opinions of more a group setting. All the tutoring services are free, which is pretty cool. Yeah, it's very accessible and very helpful. And I think for me, it's always good to not just get a professor's perspective, but a student who has gone through the same process that you're going through with that same professor. So just to get that type of feedback, I think is helpful as well.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Kyla. Aaron, would you have anything to add on the topic of tutoring services on campus?
Yeah, I mean, I was a resuscitation leader. When I was a leader, they called it an SI leader for our first year bio students. And I think that those are really helpful services, especially transitioning from high school into college. They make sure that there's a lot of different resources and, just the resuscitation program for bio, that's just one of them. So as a high schooler coming in, there's a lot of different opportunities for you to kind of chat with other students that have taken the classes, chat with your professors during office hours, and get extra help that you need. And it's all very doable.
Definitely. Thanks, Aaron. Mason, so we hear about the accessibility of professors at Ursinus, but in your experience, is that truly the case?
Yeah, I would definitely say that's the case. So my professors, I mean, as we've reiterated multiple times, professors and the classmates really get to know each other very well. And you really do form a good relationship, and that's the first part. But even before forming those relationships, office hours are posted on the website, on their syllabus, their email, and sometimes even their phone number if you need to get in contact with them in an even quicker way. Ursinus is a small campus, I'd say, like I'm talking actual size of the campus. So their offices are very close to the residence halls and everything like that as well. So you have about a 5 to 10 minute walk anywhere on campus if you need to get there physically in person right away too. And they all just try to be there for you as best as they can. I know most of my professors get back to me from an email within like 24 hours. Most of them even less than that. So especially with this online learning that we're doing now, it's amazing to see how much they're trying to get back to everybody because they're fielded with so many questions and everything now because of all the confusion. So it's incredible to see how accessible they are and how much they really want to make sure the students are supported no matter what.
Perfect. Thanks, Mason. And then Rebecca, could you talk a little bit about just teaching at a school like Ursinus, small residential community, and what that does to the philosophy of availability amongst the faculty?
Sure. So faculty have to have certain office hours, but that's sort of silly because all of the faculty are available most of the time. I mean, sometimes we have to tell a faculty member it's okay to close your door and not, talk to students for an hour so you can get something done. Because if faculty are not in class, they're often in their lab or in their office with their door open, which means if you don't have office hours, it just requires someone to walk by and, knock at the side of my door and say, are you available right now? And I'll almost always say, yeah. So it really is part of our philosophy. We're not a behind closed doors type of place. So I talk to students most of the day. That's probably the thing I miss the most, being away from campus, because I am now just talking to my students when they contact me for office hours or an advising appointment or in class, but I don't have that, throughout the day interaction with students, which would also include students that I had from prior years, just, walking down the hallway, stopping in to chat with me, tell me what they're up to. I love to hear what they're taking, what are you taking this semester? What is difficult for you? What's really exciting for you? So it's really just part of the whole philosophy. Like, you can't walk through campus without seeing people and stopping to chat about something. Like what are they doing for their internship, or, what are their summer plans? So it really is a part of our fabric of Ursinus.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love your point where these relationships don't end when the semester is over. You're really a part of those students' lives for all 4 years, and then even beyond as well. I know that those relationships will continue to persist, which is a part of why I love academics at Ursinus. What about shifting gears now to balancing multiple priorities? A lot of students are very, very busy in the classroom, but they're also extremely involved outside of the classroom as well. So Erin, as a student athlete, can you talk about balancing athletics and academics with all of your other clubs and organizations there as well?
Yeah, sure. So I played field hockey for 4 years, and I'm also a bio major, so I had to juggle field hockey, games, practices, lifts with my labs, classes, meetings with professors, all that good stuff. And I think definitely, we've been talking a lot about the accessibility of your professors, but also your coaches are there for you. It's really a balance between athletics and academics, and obviously academics always comes first. You're here to get an education, but you still have the opportunity to compete in athletics, which is great. So for me, I found that, transitioning into college, maybe the first month or two was a little bit more difficult because I had to get a schedule down with my practices, lifts, classes. But once you have a schedule down, and my coach helped me with that. So my coach she helps our girls sit down and make a schedule that works for them. Once I had that, it was really all about time management. So these 4 years have really taught me how to manage my time, how to prioritize things. And I think that's a skill that will continue throughout my life, which is really helpful. So I think for any student athletes out there, it's really rewarding being a student athlete, but it is work. So make sure you are reaching out to your professors for extra help. You are following up for any assignments that you missed for games, stuff like that. But the other thing that's really great is your team is there to support you. So a lot of your players have taken the classes that you're in as a freshman or even a sophomore. So your seniors, your juniors will really be there to help guide you through these difficult classes that they've taken before. And it's really a cool support network for you.
Absolutely. Thanks, Erin. And then Mason, how have you kind of balanced academics, athletics, and everything else that you have going on as well?
I was muted. I will say that it really is a challenge in the beginning. At least for me, it was. I think Erin hit it on the spot with a lot of her great points. But like she said, your coaches, professors, and your teammates, you're going to have a great support system. And we say this every single question, but it's true. It's the community at Ursinus is so supportive and so strong that you're always going to have someone there to help, even if you feel like you don't. I think the hardest part for me in the beginning was making sure I didn't waste time after a practice or before practice, like getting my schoolwork done, because that is the main reason you're here first. And as long as you just try to make sure you realize, okay, there's like a different level of maturity you need to have at this point now. Like school comes first, sports are there to help and to just have fun and provide some determination, commitment, networking. But yeah, you really need to just hone your time management skills, which can be done. And yeah, it's a little bit of a maturity step up, which is really good for your future and for yourself as a person. I think it's really rewarding, like Aaron said, and I would recommend doing it if you have the abilities to.
Nice. Thanks, Mason. So heading into the chat, we have a question. And Aaron, I'm actually going to throw it to you first. Brenna is wondering, how easy is it to become involved in research, to help a professor with their own research, or even become a lab assistant? So I'd love to hear kind of your experience with that process.
Yeah, that's a great question. And that's always something that I try to talk about when I'm giving my tours on campus of the science buildings. So it's really easy to get involved in research at Ursinus. I did research my freshman year with my advisor, Dr. Bailey. And it's as easy as like going up to a professor after class or sending them a quick email about their research and just introducing yourself and saying that you're interested in helping them in their lab. So there's a lot of different research opportunities at Ursinus. I would definitely, if you're interested in like scientific research, go online to the Ursinus website under the biology tab, and there's a lot of the professors' research there. So you can click on the professors and see kind of what types of research they do. Dr. Lizak talked about like her genetics research, but the research I did was on the cardiac effects of pregnancy in mice. So it's very different, but very interesting. So definitely if you're interested, go online and check those research items out. And then when you get on campus, don't be afraid to stop in at office hours for professors and introduce yourself, talk to them about their research, kind of see what you're interested in doing. And then from there, you can get started as early as your freshman year.
Great, thanks, Aaron. Rebecca, could you add just how integral are students to the research that you are doing?
Yeah, so because we are just an undergraduate college, all the research I do involves undergraduate students. So that's an advantage to the students here because there's no graduate students, there's no postdoctoral fellows who are running the research and you are just like cleaning dishware or something like that, which sometimes happens at a larger place. Everyone in my lab is doing independent research, gathering data that we hope is going to be published in the future. And I try to bring my students when I can to national meetings to present that work. So when my students go to a conference, they are presenting a poster of original work. And most of the time, the people attending the conference don't even realize that the students are undergraduates. They assume they're graduate students because they're doing the type of research that graduate students would be doing. So they're absolutely integral to my research. I couldn't get all my research done without having students in the lab. So I love taking on new students. But I also want to stress that even though Aaron and I are both, in the biology department, there is research going on across the entire campus, not just in the sciences. Of course, like sciences, you think of it typically because they're in a laboratory or in a field setting, but all across campus, there's chances to do research with a faculty member. And it just looks different depending on, if you're in history or you're in English, or say you want to make your own movie or write your own novel. Like there'll be a professor who will help you with that. And one way that you can get involved with that is through our Summer Fellows program, which runs in the summer and is like an 8-week experience where you get to live on campus and do your passion. So whether it's working in a research lab or it's like writing your own novel or directing your own play, whatever your research interest is, you can do that through our Summer Fellows program.
Yeah, and those are two fantastic points that you concluded with there. Some students will think if research is available, it's only in those lab sciences, and that is absolutely not the case. There's not a single major on campus where students can't be doing research or they aren't actively doing research every single year. And then we also have the opportunity to continue that into the summer. So the work that you're doing on campus throughout the year, and absolutely continue that work year-round as well, which is fantastic for students. Another question in the chat we have is from Will. And Brandon, I'm going to throw this to you. Will asks, what classes does a freshman typically take in their first semester? So I'd love to hear just What classes have you been taking in this now your first 2 semesters?
That's a good question. So all freshmen their first semester have to take CIE 100. So that's the first class you take as a freshman. Moving on, I found a lot of the freshman class also takes their first semester of language. So whatever language you want to do, it's considered for the language requirement. It is an science requirement to have language both for 2 semesters. Typically with freshmen, they also do start to take fundamental courses and topics that they're interested in. So in my case, since I was interested in math, I took Calc 1 my first semester. But I also took an art class my first semester because I'm interested in art, and it was just a good way to diversify my schedule.
Excellent. Thanks, Brandon. And then Kyla, can you talk a little bit about your experience with our common intellectual experience? And how did that serve you in transitioning from high school to college? But then how has it continued to inform your academic experience now that you're beyond your first year?
Yeah, definitely. So CIE, common intellectual experience. I always say it's, a course that seems philosophical for sure at first, but once you get into it, you realize, I know for me, my freshman year, just coming to this common ground, you have all of these different people that you've never met before, with different backgrounds, values, beliefs, things of that nature, and you being able to come together, and even if you don't agree on something, just being able to be enlightened by other people's experiences and how they approach different situations in life. And honestly, I won't say it's a life course, but it definitely helps you to just question the simple things. Not everything takes the difficult question in order to, get a deeper understanding of it. Just being able to dig deeper into what you're trying to study. I know CIE has definitely helped me in, just asking questions about what it is that I'm doing, how is it going to help me, but how is it going to help me help others. And I think, CIE just it takes away like I guess you could say. I feel like it helps you to understand that it's not just you that's being impacted by what you're learning, and being able to make such a unique degree. Like I said, for me, I'm doing psych and dance, and being able to add to dance as like a psychotherapeutic treatment to the world, for others, I think is very impactful, because not everything requires the common medication, things of that nature. So again, just looking at things differently and how you can better contribute to society.
Yeah, that's really well said. Thanks, Kyla. And I think CIE serves to transition students from their high school learning environment into what is expected in that Ursinus classroom. And it just, as you're saying, continues to pay dividends then moving forward. And a lot of students will note that CIE for them is a big step up from what they were maybe used to and what was expected of them in high school. And so, Aaron, I would shift the conversation to you. And what was the biggest change that you noticed from your high school experience into your college, specifically pertaining to academics?
Yeah, I think the biggest shift was the amount of time that you have to spend on your homework and in your classes. So you'll have like a 50-minute class 3 days a week, but the time that you spend outside of that class preparing for it is really a lot more than at least I was used to in high school. So being able to budget your time and understanding that you need to spend a certain amount of hours on this class, as well as, your other classes that you're taking. And if you're struggling in one class, understanding that you may need to go to office hours and budget, an hour for that. So I think it's definitely different in you seem to have a lot of like extra time, but that extra time really should be taken up by you preparing for your classes, preparing for your exams, your bigger assignments. It's not just sitting in class and then leaving class and that's done. It's really like making sure you understand the content that you're learning in class, and constantly trying to review that so that you can ace your test.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think a lot of students are in a similar boat. But again, we really emphasize that as you're making that transition, you're by no means alone. You have your fellow students, you have faculty, you have all of those tutoring services, our first year advising program as well. We're with you every step of the way. So we are going to wrap up here, friends. But we have one final question, and I will throw it first to our students, and then Rebecca, I'll throw it to you kind of last. But Brandon, if you want to start, and it is simply, what is something you wish you had known coming into your first year? What advice would you have to your former self?
The biggest advice that I would have given myself, which isn't necessarily Ursinus oriented, but just college oriented, the stigma around it, coming in to freshman year at least, I had people and other teachers telling me like, oh, college is going to be like super strict. You're going to be doing a lot of work. It's very rigorous. First day, first semester, my first class, my teacher basically told us all to just forget the formalities, call him G. And every day in class, he'd spend a good 10, 15 minutes talking about his dogs. So if that's like, and that was pretty common throughout the other classes I was in as well. Just overall, just the teachers and professors in college are not as scary and not as tough as you might think they are. And then just college itself is not as scary as it might seem.
Definitely. Thanks, Brandon. Mason, what about you?
So something I would say I wish I knew was something I wish I listened to was a lot of people were telling me to get involved right away, but I was kind of scared my first year. I didn't really know what to get involved with. I was like, oh gosh, I'm not gonna have enough time to do all these things. But I think starting off strong, joining a bunch of clubs, other activities, even trying to get a job on campus, such as tour guiding, which is an amazing job on campus. I think it really helps you kind of get a routine in the schedule your first year. And it's not that scary when it comes down to it. It sounds like you're doing a lot of things, but all these different activities, you're going to have people supporting you and people meeting, and you're going to be networking with people, which is really important too. So I would say try to get over that fear of not joining something because you think you won't have time. And the reality is you can always drop out of it if it's too much. So I'd say try it rather than not try it, because I wish I did that my first year.
Yeah, getting involved is key. Thanks, Mason. Kyla, what about you?
I would definitely, going off of what Mason said, it is not easy to just dive right in. Again, you're meeting all these different people. You're in a completely new environment. You're by yourself, technically. So I think for me, like, I wish I would have gotten involved more, but I also wish that I would have, as you've heard from most of us, like, having that community and that relationship with students and with professors. I wish I would have jumped in earlier to get those relationships with my professors, because they definitely pushed to be to basically broaden my intelligence, whether it be in psychology or whether it be in dance or Africana studies. And I don't think I would have ever even considered taking Africana studies if I didn't, approach my professors and, gain a better understanding of what Ursinus could offer. So yeah, I think just like, taking that leap, as scary as it may seem, I know I was definitely shy coming in. So like, going out to people is not like my strong suit, but like, just putting your foot out there, and again, just trying to do that.
Yeah, definitely. It's taking that leap. It's not being afraid to dive right in. And ours is an extremely friendly and supportive community. So know that there will be people there to meet you as you do take that leap. Aaron, what about you?
I think I would have to say, like, just ask a lot of questions. So that goes for asking questions in your class, but also asking questions of your peers. Like, maybe if you know someone who's doing like a really interesting double major, like ask them questions about how they got there, like what made them interested in pursuing that and why. I think that's a really good thing to do, especially your freshman year when you're kind of like trying to figure out what's best for you, is just ask questions. Ask questions of your professors in class, also in office hours. Ask them what their interests are and you know what their favorite class to teach is, just things like that. I think it helps you really build a community and a network of people. And people are always willing to help, especially fellow Bears. Like we're really happy to answer questions, especially from freshmen, because we know we've been there and we know how it feels to be your first year. So I think I would definitely say ask questions in every aspect, every part of your life that you can, for sure.
Yeah, drawing on the wisdom of the collective and building that network is a huge benefit of going to a small school like Ursinus. So that's very well said. Thank you. And then Rebecca, we'll conclude with you. What advice would you have to first-year students as they set foot on campus for the first time in the fall?
I would echo a lot of the sentiments of that the students just went over. But one thing to always keep in mind is to keep yourself open to things that you might not have thought you would enjoy. I always encourage my students to just attend things, right? Like we have a lot of speakers on campus, performances on campus, and it might not be anything related to what you think you might be interested in, but just go. It's part of the college experience that you have all of these free access to all of these free events and different ways to learn that are outside of your normal class periods. So you don't even know what if you're gonna like it unless you go. Like just try it out. So I just encourage you to stay open to new ideas, not pigeonhole yourself that like you're a science kid or you're a math kid or you're an artist only. Like try to go to something else, go to some political speaker, go to some dance performance, even though you're a scientist. And you'll like discover so much more about the campus. You'll meet so many more people. You'll just enjoy your experience so much more. And with that in mind, I always stress to all my first year students, you need a calendar. So just think ahead about how you want to manage your time. But time management is huge. It's come up many times in this panel. And just be aware that like no one's going to be there telling you, you have to be here at this time, you have to be there at that time. It's up to you to keep track of your schedule. And so just like being ready for how you're going to best be able to do that, whether it's a planner or an electronic calendar, that's going to allow you to say, oh, I have time to go to that interesting dance performance because I've already mapped out my schedule and I'm not going to, forget to study for this exam. So it's kind of like mixing those two things, the practical and also the like exploratory sense of college.
Yes, absolutely. And as students are stepping outside of their comfort zones, trying new things, it's important to do so in an ordered and structurally way as it pertains to time management, particularly within the realms of academics. So thank you to all of our wonderful panelists for lending us their wisdom this afternoon. We really appreciate you taking the time to be here and speak with all of our prospective students and families. To those students and families, we thank you as well for being here. We thank you for bearing with us on a few tech issues as we unleash this new technology in our first of our 5-part series of webinars. We weren't able to get to all of the questions, but make sure if you have a question that didn't get answered, head down to our Ask a Bear feature. And again, if people want to relive this experience, the recording will be available on our Admitted Student Experience website. So make sure you keep exploring that Admitted Student Experience at your own pace, engaging with the different disciplines, different sectors on campus. And we will see you right back here tomorrow at 3 p.m. for our next webinar, which is focused more on campus and student life. Thank you, everyone. Have a great afternoon. Go Bears.